that brings up our topic, and some of the people that you have your eye on next, because it's not over. There are still some serious players on the board left to go in July and August. So kind of who are you looking at as like the next players to watch here?
So, I mean, look, we're at 20, like we mentioned, we're at 20 commits. There's about room for 4 to 7 more. The big one, the big dog right now is Savon Hiter out of Virginia. He's going to be making a decision either by the end of July or August. But what's interesting is he put out a tweet recently that a commitment date is soon. Well, we haven't gotten it yet, so can't be that soon. But regardless, at some point, he will be announcing a commitment. This is the number 1 running back in the nation, big time player. This has been Michigan's number 1 player on their prospect board for a while. It is a Tennessee-Michigan battle. There is NIL involved, obviously. But this is also a recruitment where Savon Hiter, he's not public like a lot of other kids. He's very low key.
Look,
and he wants to keep it that way.
Jesus.
I mean, even his advisor doesn't even want to be known as an agent because he's like, look, I have personally spoken with his advisor on X publicly. Anyone can see that. Point is, he just wants to be known as an advisor. He's not his agent. That's the situation, So, Michigan looks to be in a great spot. I don't think Michigan's going to get outdone here, and I feel, and I don't know Savon Hiter like, I don't know the kid's favorite color, but it does appear just by what we do know, Michigan is his best fit, culture-wise, play style-wise. It just seems like a good match. And I do think Michigan's going to land Savon Hiter, but we are now in wait-and-see mode on when that commitment date is going to be.
Yeah, Savon is obviously, you made a point, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago on the show, that Michigan has had a history recently of when someone's number 1 on the big board, they get them. And so I'm sure that there was already a big pile of money earmarked and like a plan for him. But now I don't know how many. I know that sometimes with NIL deals, it is earmarked for that particular player, and sometimes there's flexibility and funds can move around. Would you say that, it was all tied up for Calvin, or do you think that there is some flexibility there of, hey, we can now sweeten, Savon Hiter's package to say to Tennessee, no, he's our number 1 guy. We're getting him.
So listen, there is speculation on my end because I don't have the answer to this, but like, here's what I do know. By all accounts, Michigan's not going to be out NIL'd here. They're just not. Like, that's the word. So, and we knew that. We heard that in like March. That whatever it's one of those whatever it takes situations. So we heard that with Ty Haywood, we heard that with Andrew Babalola, we heard that with Underwood. So this is one of those. I felt the Calvin Russell one was one of those as well, but at the end of the day, the clock ran out of time, So we'll see. I mean, I think Michigan's going to do what it needs to do. This is their prize. Listen, I feel bad saying that because all these other kids are so great, but this is their number 1 target, man. I just do not see Michigan letting him go. And I don't see him, like, that's another thing too, is like, again, I am assuming here, but it just does not feel like he is going to go to Tennessee to chase a bag, bro. He just doesn't appear, it doesn't feel like he's that type of kid. So
it sounds like he's valuing education. It sounds like he's valuing the development that he's going to get. Yeah. And so, I actually kind of was like, because there have been some Buckeyes that have been hitting me up like, hey, what about Ohio State? They're still in this too. Tennessee just feels like a weird one for me because, like, at least at Ohio State, and it's hard for me to say nice things about Ohio State, but like, there is some legit NFL development going on there, right? Especially in certain position groups. They've had some running backs go to the NFL and do very well. And so it's like, obviously Zeke Elliott, right? The big one. But like, yeah, Tennessee just seems strange to me, but so the Buckeyes, you think are completely out of it at this point?
Yes. It's nice. Tennessee, Michigan.
Nice.
Yep. Buckeyes. It's interesting. The Buckeyes it's an interesting situation because their fan base is like trying to. It's so funny just like observing, them all freaking out over recruiting when they have a top 5 class. They're like, oh, do we don't have the NIL resources, and oh, we gotta like they think there's so many of that. I know not all, because some Buckeyes at least have a brain cell. But there's so many in that fan base who thinks kids are going to Ohio State and they're not being paid, which is wild. It's like, no, you guys listen, does anyone not know about your NIL budget last year that won you a natty?
Yeah.
Was it 22.5 million?
Something like that.
You in Texas or whatever had like the highest NIL budgets last year. So, look, I think the reality is, and I don't think Buckeyes fully comprehend this, but much like Michigan, resources are allocated for certain position groups. And then there's other position groups that just do not have the resources that the other position groups are getting, which I think Ohio State is going through with the defensive line. They put so much resources into the wide receiver position. Other position groups suffer. You can't buy everybody. Like, you just can't. So what Ohio State, so now I'm going on a tangent.
Yeah,
what Ohio State fans fail to realize is we are now in the NIL era, and a lot of people have effing money. Does anyone see what Texas Tech is doing or who their damn booster is? I just saw him today. I just learned who he was today. He's bankrolling Texas Tech, kind of like Ruiz does for Miami. And they're now
is that why Felix Ojo got $5.1 billion?
And they're about to get a 5-star for the 2027 class too. Texas Tech is about to run the Big 12. They have the financial resources and capacity to be the top dog in that conference, and they're going for it. And I just saw today who their donor was. He's actually on the board for Texas Tech, which is crazy. Wow. I don't know. I feel like that's a conflict of interest to be on the board and be a booster, but whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, like, at the end of the day, Ohio State is now competing with a bunch of big pocket people. They're not going to win every recruitment. There's only so much resources to go around. And I just don't think that reality's hit them yet. They're so used to just dominating all the time. They don't realize that they had quite a competitive edge the last 20 years.
Yeah, for sure. So aside from Savon Hiter, I think there were a couple others that you had circled for like who we should be looking for.
Yeah. So the next player we'll talk about is Duce Geralds. Duce Geralds is the defensive tackle. He's a top 100 player. Michigan has been pushing hard. He currently does not have a commitment date. But this is a player that I have been on record saying I'd be surprised if he ends up in the class. But it does appear that Michigan is making a push here. And the reason why I'd be surprised is because really what we need is a nose tackle. We need a 0 tech. We don't need that 3 tech because we got Alistair Vallejo, man. But apparently Michigan is pushing for Duce Geralds to an extent. How much, we'll see. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting, man. So we'll just have to monitor the Duce Geralds recruitment. It does appear Michigan's in on it. It does appear, it's possible, but I just feel Duce Geralds will be ending up elsewhere. But it is a player we will be monitoring. Maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe Michigan has additional resources and they decide to take a swing at Duce Geralds. And I will say this though, if they get Duce Geralds, this defensive line class is absolutely stupid. We're going to pass elite. It's going to pass elite and enter stupid.
That'd be insane.
It'd be stupid. It'd be cheat code. It wouldn't be fair. It'd be wrong. Almost feel like cheating, but you know what? Don't care. At the end of the day, play to win, baby. And then the next player we'll talk about is Nick Abrams, who I am a big fan. Now, this is your linebacker. This is the kid. This is a kid who, if Brian Jummery was able to pull off Nick Abrams, would be a very good addition. He is going to be making his announcement, and you know what? I had it. Let's see if I have it here. It's going to be like in the next 2 weeks. Michigan is pushing for him, but the reality is there's been some other schools. There's been some talk about potentially him going to the SEC.
July 16th.
Is it July 16th? Okay. So in literally a week and a half, he's going to be making his announcement. We'll see. Does Michigan now have the ability to make now that the resources appear to be potentially freed up, can they make a stronger play at Nick Abrams? I'll tell you this right now. I would love Nick Abrams in this class. And if they did get him, or if they were to, up the ante a little bit on this NIL and get him. Excellent addition, hard hitting, physical, good instinct linebacker. And I would actually love to see that, but we'll see. I mean, I know it's a recruitment that has a few suitors, and it's something that Michigan's going to have to. I think they're going to have to up the ante if they want to get him. Next player we'll talk about is a big one. I have 2 more players. There's this one and another one, John. Devon Benjamin, cornerback 1, number 1 cornerback in the nation. The only intel I got on this, the only one I got, and I got this a week ago, Michigan is offering the most NIL here. Now, that was a week ago. It could be outdated. Oregon could have countered. I don't know. I have no idea on that. I'll see if I can get an update for you guys, but I personally don't have any more update than that. I do know Michigan is making an aggressive play here through NIL, and this kid is a game changer. This is a kid. I said, listen, we were talking about the big 3. We were talking about Carter Meadows, Savon Hiter, Calvin Russell. That was the big 3, and I was like, no, we're talking big 4 now. Devon Benjamin is up there in the same category as the Carter Meadows and the Savon Hiters. This kid is an X factor. He has the ability to play nickel. He has the ability to play on the outside. He could play on the back end. He's versatile. I would argue he is Jabril Peppers light.
Whoa.
Jabril Peppers light. Not Jabril Peppers, but he's in that mold, that athletic prototype, I would argue. Big time player, boys. I'll tell you right now, we get Devon Benjamin, let's party. Like we're gonna have a good time. The recruitment, the live reaction video or the live commitment watch party will be insane, and then the post reaction, we'll have a good time with it. But yeah, man. I mean, it's just it's a kid that Michigan is after. They're making an aggressive play. Oregon, by all accounts, is not backing down though. So what's interesting, and I mentioned this before, or maybe I might have mentioned this in a video that didn't go public actually. What we have here is like Game of Thrones. We have the Knights and we have the Ellisons, and they're going to war right now. They're going to war over Devon Benjamin. So it's essentially a Game of Thrones recruitment. You have these 2 powers, with NIL ability, and it's interesting to see this recruitment go down. I will say it does appear though that Michigan has given Benjamin a lot to think about. He was considered an Oregon hard lean. Okay. But Michigan has really shifted this recruitment. Now when does he plan to commit? It appears to be at some point in August, but like I said, it's potentially possible Michigan. I've heard, I probably shouldn't throw this out there, but I've heard Michigan's going to try and move that up. We'll see on that. To be determined. So, I will say that Michigan's pushing hard here. We'll see if we can get him. Big time player, would be an excellent addition to the class. Last player we'll talk about is the B-Dub special. Ben Boulware, nose tackle out of North Carolina, Oak Grove. It appears if Michigan pushes for this, they can get him. It appears. And he's a very good player. So this is that zero tech. This is the zero tech that I believe is the missing piece in this defensive line. I'm not special. Anyone who's paying attention to this recruiting class knows zero tech is the missing piece of this defensive line. He fits it. Ben Boulware is like 6. Let's look this up. 350, man. Like this kid is a monster. He's 6'5", 305. I'm sorry, I said 350. 6'5", 305 at 17 years old, ranked 5'11" in the nation, but nose tackles and centers do not get respect in the rankings. We know this. He's a big boy. He's a run stuffer, lane stuffer. Make sure the offensive linemen do not get to the linebackers. Make sure they do not get to the second level. I mean, so we'll see. I kind of wish Michigan would push here, but I believe the reason why they're not closing or shutting it down is because they're going the Duce Geralds recruitment. I think they are swinging for Duce Geralds. I think after the Duce Geralds, whether he goes with Michigan or a different school, I think then the Ben Boulware recruitment is going to become much clearer. It does appear they are kind of slow playing that one right now.